And welcome to Tearing Down High Places. My name's Average Joe. Got Pastor Jeff and Pastor Tim, fellas. Welcome to the end of August.
Time's flying.
Here we are.
Well, listen, guys, I got a great guest today. Today's my turn to introduce the guest because I know him kind of well. I've had him on my old podcast, which was called Saving Fatherhood. Had him on there a couple of times when I was interviewing different alienated parents and people who went through really bad divorces and lost their kids and things like that. The core issue was always no fault divorce. And I don't remember exactly how I met our guest today. His name is Jeff Morgan, but he is the nation's #1 advocate to end no fault divorce. And he had this YouTube page with 10,000 subscribers, and he really got into the nuts and bolts of it. And guess what? He's a former pastor and missionary. He's going to come on today and tell us how he might be the guy that actually ends no fault divorce here in the United States.
You know, Joe, when you mentioned this idea, it was right when I was preaching Ecclesiastes 5. And Ecclesiastes 5 says, do not be rash to make a vow, but pay what you vow. Mm-hmm. And he said, Solomon said, it's better to not vow than to vow and not pay. Mm-hmm. And he talks about the importance of vows. You can shipwreck your entire life by a vow that you don't pay. So marriage is a vow. When you stand before God and man and make a statement, what you say with your words matters in the presence of God. And an oath is different than just an ordinary thing that is said, because you're invoking the name of God. You're doing this in the presence of witnesses. It's a marriage oath. It's a vow. So we need to regard that as a sacred thing.
Amen. And that's what we want to do. And in order to do that and hold people accountable, we need to eliminate no fault divorce. Let's welcome Jeff Morgan. Welcome to Tearing Down High Places.
Hi, Jeff.
Thank you so much, Pastor Tim, Pastor Jeff, Average Joe Gormley. Thank you so much for having me on here. And I want to just say one thing first. Joe, you have been a blessing to me. So I talked with Joe with regard to what's going on right now. And he said, anytime, brother, you need somebody to pray for you, you just give me a call. And then he even said later on, he said, if you need somebody to pray, just text me. And there have been times, Joe, that I have felt like, physically you go through things, and then at the same time, you feel like you're standing against the fury of hell, like hell is coming at you. And there have been times, Joe, that I'm like, 3 weeks ago, I was in the emergency room, having my heart checked and stuff like that. My heart's in good condition. Everything was fine, but it was just the stress of going through all of this. And, it's the unknown right now. I do think that, those who are with us are greater than those who are with them. I've told you, Joe, that if this gets turned over, I don't know that I want to volunteer for another mountain to take like Caleb White might do. This walk is torturous. It's hell at times, but I think we have to go through it. But I just wanted to say thank you for always being there and just being able to say, listen, I'll pray for you. And Joe, there's been a number of times that within a few minutes after you prayed, I was like, okay, you know what? We can take the next step. So prayer is very important. I solicit everyone's prayers, especially, yes, I want to take down this evil system, but more importantly, I think is that I want to see my marriage restored. As you were saying that, two shall become one. They're no longer two, they're one. And when God brings you together, you're better together. And to be torn apart, it's ripping out a side of you. Yeah. I mean, that has impact. But thank you so much.
No, you're welcome so much. And let me just say real quick that I want to try and summarize a couple of things for the audience and for the pastor so that they can ask you some deeper questions around this. But so here's the summary of what I've seen, Jeff. You got divorced years ago and became a really powerful advocate and a person that has been involved in a lot of big cases across the country. I think of there's so many, and how I've watched you minister to people, and you did that after you went through a no-fault divorce. You were trying to honor your marriage and biblically, and that didn't work out because the state will not. And a lot of people don't know this. This is why I'm saying this. The state does not enforce marriage vows, right? No. As Jeff was just talking about, it's a very important vow, and the state refuses to enforce it, and they've taken the power away from the church to be able to enforce it, right? Or the church has abdicated, depending on how you want to.
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of both.
A lot of both, yeah.
So, so now, after all this advocating for other people, you had no idea this was going to happen, but your wife is now filing for a no-fault divorce. And while what we're praying for is her to come back to you, and to just throw this whole thing away.
Right.
There really is no other person that I see that I mean, if God works in such crazy ways from our perspective that, wow, why wouldn't he put you in this situation to take out no fault divorce? Because you're quite frankly more knowledgeable about it than anyone I've ever met.
Yeah, and that's been one of the things that my friends here have said the same thing, and I've honestly said the same thing. I mean, there's nobody else who can do this to the same. I mean, if there is, I don't know who it is. We've been trying to go after this, and that's why it's very difficult. Because yes, I want to see it torn down. I never thought I would be the person from this place fighting from a position of standing in a court that I now actually can hit it head on. And that's what's been so torturous. But I do think you're right. It's easy to tell other people how to do it, but then now that I'm in it, I'm like, you know what? Even when you're telling people what to do and how to go about attacking it, being in it yourself, your heart is in turmoil. It's just torture. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Joe. I think that we've been studying this issue. When I say we, there's been a small group of us, been doing this probably 10, 11 years. First, no fault of, when my first wife filed for no fault divorce, no matter what I did, I could have had 20 witnesses there with me. And in fact, I even mentioned it to the judge. I said, if I had 20 witnesses here that say you shouldn't do this, would you stop the divorce? And he said, well, I don't know. I don't know. I said, the Texas Family Code says that you may grant a divorce. Oh no, I have to. No, if your issues with the legislature, I just follow the law. It's horrible.
I'm not in favor of divorce.
But you granted mine.
I don't have a choice. That's my choice.
You actually did.
No, sir, I didn't.
The Texas.
Why don't you go talk to them? Your gripe is not with me, it's with the legislature.
Well, you know what? You signed off on something. There were no
You know the law says I have to.
No, it does not say. It says you may.
If I can get a situation where everybody comes forward to divorce, I go, you know what? I think y'all don't need one today. I'm not going to do it.
I'm
violating my oath.
No, you aren't. The Texas Family Code 6.001 said the judge may.
Why don't you go read the law yourself? You don't know.
I already had. Actually, look at section 56.
What you're talking.
Well, I'm really glad that we had this very respectful conversation. I'm trying to let you know.
You know what I thought? I was going to come in here and talk to you because I thought maybe you had understood that I just follow the law. I don't make it. But my point is, sir, is that the gripe that you have is not with me, it's with the legislature. Good question. I asked you, are you okay with this? And you said yes.
With the division of property. You said, was it under duress?
That's why I was so befuddled by this whole thing. There was no contested issue here. You weren't angry that day when you left.
I certainly was.
Well, you didn't tell me.
What was I supposed to do? Say, Judge, I'm angry?
You could have said, I don't agree with any of this, Judge. You know what I would have done? I would have said, you can have a trial then, sir. Sit over there and call me first witness. That's what would have happened.
Tell me something. If I had put 20 witnesses and I would have said this shouldn't have happened, would you have ruled that differently?
I don't know.
And that's when I said that any single pastor who marries a couple at the altar and he says, tries to let them know until death do you part, you're going to be marital partners for life. They're actually committing perjury in a sense. They don't realize this because the state, which loves separation of church and state, except when it gets to interfere with a covenant of the church. I took a covenant marriage. My vows were my prenuptial. My vows were my commitment to God. I will not get divorced. Are there times that you feel like you might want to? Of course. I was up at Bible college. I remember this one godly lady said, Jeff, I've woken up 3 times in my marriage and I've looked over at my husband. I said, why am I even here with him? But nevertheless, God takes 2 imperfect people, 2 sinful people, and he wants to make something better out of both of them. My weaknesses, she should have strengths. Her weaknesses, I should have strengths. We complement each other, but he takes 2 sinful people and he makes them the trophy of his grace. He wants to present us to say, this is God's grace at work within two sinful people. And this marriage is what I want to use to portray the relationship of Christ and the church. And the state says, forget about that.
Crazy.